Hey folks, hello folks, hey folks, and welcome to the Benjamin Silver Show, or the Ben Silver Show, whichever you prefer. I don't mind. Hope you all are having a nice Thursday here. Today I wanted to talk about a few different guys and just sort of oligarchs in general, what they represent. But we're going to start off with just one of them, a fellow by the name of Alex Karp. Who you may be familiar with. He's the CEO of a company called Palantir, or actually, as they pronounce it incorrectly, Palantir, which makes weapons, high-tech weapons to kill people in high-tech ways. It was founded by Peter Thiel, who is himself a maniac, but right now we're just going to concentrate on Alex Karp. Here's a little introduction to him from Aaron Ross Sorkin of New York Times Steelbook fame.
Palantir, Alex Karp.
Good morning, everybody. Palantir's Alex Karp is here, and we are going to get into it. Alex, thank you for being here. Palantir is named after the Seeing Stones in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Palantir has a complicated, let's say sometimes secretive, controversial business that helps the U.S. And other countries and governments around the world make sense of complicated data. That's what they do. Its business has soared in the age of artificial intelligence. Today, it is among the top 30 most valuable companies in the world. It is worth $400 billion. And after October 7th, Karp has been perhaps singularly the most outspoken CEO in America to support Israel. Week after the attack, he took out a full-page ad in this newspaper, the New York Times, had 4 words on it. It said, Palantir stands with Israel. It should say the IDF and Mossad are clients of Palantir. But there are a lot of questions.
So that last part is key there. I mean, it deserves to be restated. The IDF and Mossad are clients of Palantir. The weapons that Palantir creates right now are being used by and large to surveil and murder Palestinians, specifically Gazans. And really what it is it's a testing ground for technology that eventually they want to use right here in the good old US of A. So he's the kind of guy that I think it's reasonable to be concerned about, and concerned about his mental state as well, because he's an incredibly powerful person. He's a billionaire. He's the CEO of a company that makes futuristic weapons like drones, capable of chasing down and executing protesters, just to name a hypothetical, for instance. So that's a little introduction to who he is. Let's he seems pretty fashy, which makes sense why he would be such a big fan of Israel, which is also at this point pretty fashy. Big fan of Donald Trump, also fashy. But let's see what he has to say about Donald Trump and whether or not Donald Trump is a fascist. Here we've got a YouTube short that the New York Times has helpfully created for us.
And I'm curious where you land. Do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
Of course not. I think that's stupid, honestly. And you know what? Again, you can go all day on these stuff. It's honestly idiotic. I grew up half my life in Germany. I spent time with actual fascists. I went and talked to lots of former Nazis.
All right, so there you go. In his own words, this is a guy who has spent a lot of time with fascists and enjoys talking to Nazis. I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions from there, but I would just suffice it to say this guy he's someone who sees threats everywhere and wants to use technology to eliminate anything that he sees as a threat, which is unfortunately, it's a pretty long list of people and groups and ideas that he considers threatening. And all of these oligarchs, they're getting increasingly panicked right now because they see the writing on the wall. They know that the extent to which wealth has been hoarded in this country is not sustainable. And the people, and not in just this country, of course, but like globally, wealth has been hoarded by oligarchs over the past 50 years to the extent now where basic social services are at the risk of funding shortfalls because these oligarchs so completely control the system that they will not allow even modest tax increases that could help fund these programs. But in general, it's also this philosophy that the tech industry has of constant growth. These valuations that all of these companies have, their soaring stock prices, are not based on their sort of like current performance and revenue so much as they are based on the promise of the future. And these companies, like, for instance, social media companies, Facebook, there's only so much room for growth. I'm reminded a bit of an analogy to puppies. And I can't remember where I first saw this, but if you were to base a puppy's lifetime growth on its growth in its first 3 months of life, right? You would extrapolate that by the time the dog's 10 years old, he's going to be, Clifford the Big Red Dog sized. Current growth rates are not indicative necessarily of future growth rates. And yet all of these companies, their valuations are based on them being able to maintain the pace of growth. But everybody has a Facebook now. There's no more people that they can get into their system. So the only opportunity for growth is getting the people who are in their system even more in their system. And I bring this up because I feel like these are all very related ideas, and tech in general over the course of the past 10, 20 years has moved towards a model of increasing control over users. So you have these people who are obsessed with growth, obsessed with the idea of constantly increasing their wealth, the wealth of their companies, their user base. It's a bit like empire. It's a system that in order for it to work, it requires constant expansion. But of course, you cannot have everlasting expansion. Eventually, you're going to hit some kind of a limit. And so eventually you kind of have to start scamming people. And you have these elaborate pump and dump schemes. And in effect, what happened with SpaceX was an elaborate pump and dump scheme. In as much as, so the various billionaires who helped with the funding so that Elon Musk could take Twitter private, essentially that debt was shuffled around to various companies and turned into SpaceX equity. So all of these guys are going to get very rich off of the Twitter deal ultimately, even though, of course, Twitter is losing a massive amount of money. And I don't know anyone who uses it anymore. But I suppose there are people on there. And we can see, incidentally, in case you're wondering, is it really a pump and dump? It seems like some people are getting wealthy. Well, we look here at the maximum length of time here for SpaceX stock. It closed today at 131. If you go back to the day it opened, it closed at 160 on the day of the IPO. I think the IPO price was 135. So it is it's down. It's down a considerable amount. So it's been dumped, people aren't into it. And so Elon Musk is naturally a little bit touchy about the idea of pump and dumps. He's a little sensitive because he's the king of the pump and dump, right? He manipulates the value of stock of his companies on an absolutely massive scale. And if we had a functioning SEC, they would do something about it. But unfortunately, we don't. So here he is, good old Elon, on the Joe Rogan Experience, a podcast by morons and for morons. And the Majority Report covered this a little while back, but I'd like to just go over it here.
Just don't bet the farm on a meme coin.
The weird one is the pump and dumps. Like people
happen all the time.
All the time.
Of course,
Yeah.
And
meme
people get
coins
shocked
being
that
another
somebody pump and dump.
fantastic
Like, what is?
vehicle for pump
What are
and
you
dumps.
doing? Did you like? I was hoping to dump. I was hoping to make all the money out of this. I can't believe they got me. Like,
Yeah.
it's just weird that it's legal still.
I mean, casinos are legal.
Yeah.
And
It is
people
like a
just
casino.
lose money at casinos.
Yeah.
You know.
But you can't rig a casino like a pump and dump. You could rig a pump and dump.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like you could run a real pyramid scheme.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, you can tell
I
me
mean,
better than anybody.
Social Security.
Okay, and
is-
then so here, there we go. Just going to pause it just for a second here. So of course he has to deflect, and the deflection that he comes up with is stupid. And he says that Social Security is a pyramid scheme, and he says that it's a pyramid scheme because it relies on like people paying in to pay out, which is true. It does rely on current working people paying their Social Security taxes in order to pay out beneficiaries. There's also, incidentally, a trust fund that was set up in the, I believe in the 1980s, because there was a recognition that as baby boomers approach retirement age, the ratio of workers to retirees is going to change such that the retirees would not be able to receive their full benefits at that point. So they saved up money. They created this trust fund. It's been raided a couple of times. And it is going to last until 2032, incidentally. But okay, let's keep listening to Elon here for a little bit longer. See what he has to say.
the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right. Explain that.
Oh, so well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying.
So the issue is he's trying to make people think about Social Security as if it is like a retirement account, like a Roth IRA or a 401k, where you put money in and that money that you put in grows and grows and grows, and then when you retire, you take it out. But that's not what Social Security is. Social Security is not a retirement plan. It's social insurance. And as Sam Cedar is fond of pointing out on his show, it was intended to be one leg of a three-legged stool to support people in their retirement, where the other two legs are pensions from your company, and then individual retirement savings by the worker, which would be like a 401k, for instance, or a Roth IRA. Pensions are gone at this point, unless you work in a very dwindling sector of jobs that still offer pensions. And Republicans have been trying to destroy Social Security since its inception. But what it is a social insurance program to keep seniors from dying in penury. And it has done that job very well. And like any other insurance program, the benefits that are paid out are funded by the premiums that are being paid. So this is not, it's not a Ponzi scheme, because a Ponzi scheme, in a Ponzi scheme, the person running the Ponzi scheme is telling all the people who are paying money in, oh yes, your money is growing at this rate. You have this total amount of money. And in reality, it's all a complete fiction, and they're just paying dividends using the new money that's coming in. Right? Social Security isn't doing that. They're not telling you, oh yes, you can see this is the money that you've paid into Social Security, and it's growing at this rate. Right? There are defined periods in your life when you can withdraw from Social Security, and very smart people, actuaries, accountants, those type of people have figured out how much money is going to be drawn from Social Security going into the future, and how much money is going to be going into Social Security going into the future. And there is, in fact, going to be a shortfall starting in 2032. That's when the Social Security Trust Fund runs out. So let's take a look here. I showed this graph briefly before, but essentially, so this is where we are 2026. The cost rate is 13.8%. That means basically that my understanding is that all of the amount of money, this is what this top curve is, the benefits that are paid. So the amount of money that's going out of Social Security, right? And this bottom curve is the amount of money that's coming into Social Security by people paying their Social Security taxes, but the payroll tax. And so basically 13.8% of benefits that are going out currently are coming from the Social Security Trust Fund, and the other 86% are coming from people paying their Social Security taxes. So this trust fund is going to run out in 2032, at which point there is going to be a 22, if nothing happens, this is just statutorily what will happen, because by law, Social Security cannot run a deficit. So they're going to decrease the benefits that are paid. They are not going to eliminate the benefits. Social Security is not going to run out of money, because there are still going to be people paying their Social Security taxes. And if we live in a society where there are no longer people working and paying taxes, then we're going to have a lot bigger issues. So the idea that Social Security is going to go away is a fiction. It's a line that's been pushed by Republicans because they want to undermine confidence in what is a wildly popular government program, the most popular government program, Social Security. I think the second most popular government program for the people who are on it is Medicare, incidentally. So it's a lie that it's going to go away. And this is also this is a problem that is completely fixable. Because currently, right now, the Social Security tax is actually a regressive tax in that it is a flat tax that everyone pays up to, I think it's at this point $175,000 is the cap. And basically, you pay the tax up to that amount, and then after that amount, you don't pay anything anymore. You don't pay any more Social Security. And there's always been a cap, an upper cap on Social Security, but the amount of wealth that fell, the amount of income rather, that fell in that gap, that's essentially that gap where it's not being taxed for Social Security, that amount of wealth has ballooned over the past 50 years. So here we have a page from the Economic Policy Institute, which tells us that if Congress does not act before the Social Security Trust Fund becomes depleted in 2034, they say 2034, 2032 is what some people say as well, current revenues would cover 81% of current benefits, a share that would decline to 72% by 2099. However, if we were to fix the funding gap, if we were to eliminate the tax gap, just to make it a completely flat tax rather than a regressive tax, %73 of the projected shortfall would be eliminated just by removing the maximum cap. Just by saying we're going to tax all wages at this rate for Social Security, 73% of that 19% gap would go away, which means all of a sudden you're left with only like a 5% gap, which seems a lot more fixable. So the oligarchs, the billionaires, the right wing, they're all kind of the same nexus of power. They're all lying to you. They're lying to you because they want to undermine faith in government programs, which they also do, incidentally, by defunding government programs so that they don't work as well, and then people lose faith in them. And the reason that they want people to lose faith in them is because that they are fundamentally, like, ideologically opposed to the idea of governments helping their citizens. They don't think that's what governments should be doing. I think it is. Another claim that you see get thrown around a lot is that Social Security is unsustainable because the ratio of workers to retirees has dropped precipitously as life expectancies increase. People are in retirement for longer. I mean, they've done a certain amount of fixing this by raising the retirement age, the age at which you can collect Social Security. But it's also, I mean, if you look at it, it's not actually that precipitous of a change. So if we look at, so in 1960, you had about 5 workers per retiree. Today, we got about 3. And so you might say, well, that seems problematic, right? However, what's also happened from 1960 to today is that productivity, which is to say the sort of like net output of the U.S. economy, when you take into account the labor that's required to produce that, the productivity in this country has skyrocketed. So if we look at this graph here, this top curve is what we're looking at, productivity. If you look at 1960, and this is relative to 1948. So 1948 is 100% essentially, and then you go to 1960, and we're at 145. So basically, the U.S. economy is 45% more productive in 1960 than it was in 1948. And then today, we're at 417% of our 1948 productivity. And keep in mind, this is not GDP. Of course, the GDP curve is much steeper. This is actually productivity. So this is like how much you think of this as a proxy of how much value is the average worker creating. So if you look at that, okay, so we're going from five workers per retiree to 3 workers per retiree. You think, oh, well, that means that there's only 60% the amount of money for each retiree because we've got 60% fewer workers per retiree. But those workers are more productive than they were in 1960. To the tune of like 282%. There's been a 282% increase in productivity since 1960, which more than makes up for the decrease in the raw number of workers per retiree. I do want to give another shout out to Sam Cedar and the Majority Report because they're my source of basically all of this knowledge. But it's all true. It's all true, guys. There's plenty of money. It's a problem of allocation. So the other thing I haven't mentioned about this graph, the other curve on here, is worker pay, hourly pay. And this is the hourly pay, I believe, is not I think, I'm not sure whether it's adjusted for inflation or not. Wage data, so it includes the consumer price index. So it looks like this is inflation adjusted. But still, you see this huge gap where there has been a massive increase in productivity. So basically, I mean, there's been an increase in productivity since 1948, but for the first couple of post-war decades, right, productivity and wages tracked fairly closely to each other. This is also, incidentally, a time period when the top marginal tax rate in this country was 90%. Just as an aside. So we start to see around 1980 when, and really starting in the 70s under Carter, supply side economics takes off like wildfire among the ruling classes. They decide that the best way to stimulate the economy is by cutting taxes. And I mean, it certainly stimulates the pocketbooks of the wealthy when you cut taxes. And what it results in is this, as Robert Kuttner, one of the founders of the Economic Policy Institute here, and also I think the founder and editor of the American Prospect as well. He was on the Majority Report today and talking about this graph, and he said it's like a pair of alligator. It's like an alligator jaw, right? The bottom jaw remains pretty much flat, and the top one is just gaping open. And to look at this a little bit better, basically the kind of second order effects of that graph. which leads to essentially a massive concentration of wealth at the very, very top among oligarchs. And if we look at this graph here, also this is also from the Economic Policy Institute, we look at from 1980 how much wages have increased for the bottom 90% of earners versus the top 1% of earners. And you can see, again, it's the alligator jaw. The bottom 90% real wages are up 15% from 1980. That increase all happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, so it's been flat since then. And if we look at this, is going to break it out a little bit more in this graph here. We see middle wage earners basically stagnant. Low wage earners have actually, in real dollars, had their wages decreased significantly since 1980. Very high wage earners being, I'm not sure, 95th percentile. So this is the top 5% here, essentially. So they're up 41%. But it's this incredible, it's like a sort of exponential stratification, right? Because it's 40% of the top 5, but then 138% for the top 1. And if you look at the top 0.1, it's probably 1,000%. That's speculation on my part. But it is this exponential curve in terms of like the amount of wealth that you have as you get to like a smaller and smaller percentile of the population. So, in essence, these oligarchs, these billionaires and a trillionaire, are sort of like modern day dragons in the kind of like Tolkien English understanding of dragons as these cunning, intelligent, ruthless monsters that essentially plunder wealth and build a gigantic hoard of gold and lucre and just sleep on it and then torch anyone who tries to get near it. You know, this wealth that they're hoarding, it's not creating any benefit to the economy, right? It's not trickling down to the villagers who live underneath the dragon's mountain. And I would say the best thing that the villagers in that village can do, really, is to find a champion who is willing to go up there and slay the dragon and redistribute the dragon's wealth. I should be clear here. I am speaking completely metaphorically. I do not think that we should kill billionaires. I do think that we should take their money. And we need a Saint George who is going to, again, metaphorically, slay these dragons and return the wealth to the people. Fund social programs that people love, like Social Security. Increase the funding for Social Security. Increase the funding for Medicare and let everyone have access to it, because it's another wildly popular government program. Because the dirty secret that the Republicans and the oligarchs don't want you to know is that government is actually pretty good at administering these things when they have the appropriate funding and staffing. They're good at these things, as evidenced by how popular they are. We live in, for now, a democracy, a representative democracy, I should say, democracy, but a democracy where we get to choose how we want wealth to be distributed. We get to choose how we want property to be distributed. And right now, they're not distributed in an equitable way. They are distributed in a way that is the legacy of generations and generations of exploitation through the form of, but primarily through the form of colonialism, but also through slavery and genocide. All of these historical wrongs inform how wealth and power are distributed in the world today. And if we want to live in a just and equitable society, it's going to require examining really, really closely and truthfully and with clear eyes, examining why do the people who have wealth now, why do they have that wealth? Where did that wealth come from? What people were harmed in order to amass that wealth? How have those harms compounded? Because this is the thing. Wealth compounds, of course, but so do injustices. And if we want to overcome them, it's going to require a massive redistribution. I don't know how else to put it other than that. And of course, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be a long and painstaking effort, but it's a necessary one. And the longer we take to do it, the bigger of an effort it's going to be. Anyway, that's all I got for you today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday. That's it for us here at the Benjamin Silver Show or the Ben Silver Show, whichever you prefer. I don't mind. It's the Benjamin Silver Show or the Ben Silver Show, whichever you prefer. I don't mind. It's the show.